Is getting licensed. Melinda's working on her license right now.
Perfect.
There we go. Yep, I'm putting together that as we speak. Yeah, last year I had to do, I lost out on so much buyer business. Like I closed 14 deals, but they were mostly listings. I think I had like 3 buyers and they were very easy buyers. Like, hey, I want to put an offer up this.
That sounds nice.
Yeah, those are great, but all the buyers that I could have had, it changed my. Good job. We're recording this. Once I learned the disc, personality types, I was able to see how I showed up to people. Once you understand how you're showing up to people, then you can start to adapt some of those behaviors so that you can show up in different ways for different people. Oh, Carnegie does this. Oh, he's right there. I'm like, he does this every time. Scared me. There we go. Okay, so has everybody heard of the golden rule? Yes. What's the golden rule? Treat others how you want to be treated, right? And that's what we've all lived on. Treat others how you would want to be treated. Has anybody discovered in adulthood that how you want to be treated could be different than how other people want to be treated? Right? So the platinum rule is treat others how they want to be treated. And this is the entire basis of understanding the DISC profile. This goes for all personality assessments. So you don't understand the zodiac, let's say, unless you've studied all of the zodiac signs, right? Once you've studied all of them, then you can kind of put together a profile of what you think people should. It's the same with personality tests, right? Personality tests are a little less pseudoscience and a little more real science. However, it's the same. You need to understand all of them so you can understand your own better and understand people. So you'll see, you have a handout in front of you. Oh, hold on. Hold, please. I have a handout for all my Zoom people too. Let me grab that for you really quick. Okay. Okay, everyone. That's on Zoom. There's a link in the chat that will take you to a handout, and you can write your answers on a blank piece of paper. It shouldn't be a problem. But the disc is comprised of 4 quadrants, and it's based on behavior types, basically. So the top hemisphere is outgoing. So an outgoing is an active, outgoing type of person. So this is a go-getter, fast-paced, optimistic, energetic, very involved, very positive, and very enthusiastic. On the underside, the southern hemisphere of this pie chart, whatever you want to call it, is our more reserved people. So they're slower paced, they're cautious, they're concerned, they're reluctant, they're critical thinkers, and they're very discerning. So they're more passive and reserved type of people. So it's broken down into those 2 types. I did it to myself this time. One day we're going to get it to where it doesn't do that. Okay, so then it's broken down into halves. So on the top, you've got outgoing people, and then on the bottom, you've got reserved people. And then it breaks it down into other quadrants. And on this side of the circle, we've got task-oriented people. So they're focused on form, focused on function, they're focused on plans. How is it supposed to go? Projects, process, bottom line people. This is all going to come together in a moment. On the other side of the circle, we have the people-oriented, right? So they care about relationships, they're caring, they're sharing, they're emotional, their feelings, and their friendships. These are the opposites of each other, right? And these are the opposites of each other. The DISC profiles, all 4, either set on the top portion of the circle, the bottom portion of the circle, and the right or the left. When you bring it together, this is what we're looking at. So I know you can't see the red. Oof, it's really bad. So I will read it to you, but this is some notes that you can take on your paper. All right, so at the top of the circle, we have the outgoing people, right? And you can see on your paper, it's broken up that way as well. So obviously the D and the I sit at the top of the circle, right? So they're outgoing personality types. A D sits on the left-hand side of the circle on the task-oriented side. Does that make sense? So they're outgoing people, but they're task-oriented. So they're outgoing and they'll push, but they're really focused on the task at hand. And so what it says on there is dominant, direct, demanding, decision. They're very decisive. They make good decisions, or they make a lot of decisions. Determined, and they're a doer. So they're outgoing, they're task-oriented. On the other side of the spectrum, we have another outgoing type of person, but they're people-oriented. So these people are very outgoing. They're inspiring, influencing, impressive, interactive. They're interested in people. They're impressive. Not so focused on the task as they are on the person, right? Now, our bottom section are our reserved personality types. And when broken down, we have the C type. They're reserved. They're also task-oriented. So they're cautious, they're calculating, they're competent, they're conscientious, they're contemplative, they're very careful people. They're focused on the task, and they're reserved. When we jump over to the S quadrant, they're reserved, but they're people-oriented. So we've got supportive, they're steady, they're stable, sweet people, status quo, they're kind of shy. So I want to take just a few minutes and I want you to look at this and I want you to guess where you think you end up on the scale. Which side of the quadrant do you believe you belong? Okay, Heather thinks she's an I. Okay. Okay, what else? Who else?
D.
D.
IS.
Sorry, what was that?
IS.
Okay, Michael believes he's an IS. Anybody else? S? Okay. You think you're an IS? All right. Anybody else? Any of my other Zoom people? What do you guys think about them? Where do you think you land? Okay, cool. So let's move forward. We're going to go into each individual quadrant and talk a little bit more. And I know this coloring is the pit. That's okay.
Lights off.
Let me see, will that be better?
Yeah.
I don't think that makes it better.
Turn on, that's
Turn them off.
Oh, you want all the lights on? I get it, sorry.
Mike's
Oh,
red is
Is that
better.
better? Yeah, I can see a little bit better too.
Can't see the red though.
Okay, I'll read it to you. I know. I tried to get it to be dark. I tried to get it to show up. Okay, so let's talk about D people. The D personality, that's about 10% of the population. Their likes are winning, planning, new ideas, being the boss. They're interested in results. They like fast moving and they love challenges. They dislike indecision, lazy people, details, taking orders, and moving slow. Their task method is their way, my way. They usually believe that they have the best way. That's not always the best thinking, but that's what you're going to run into when you meet with these people. When they're goal setting, they are very challenging. They're going to go for the goal. They're going to push themselves, very easily push themselves past any goal. When they goal set with other people, sometimes they have the most They go for the highest. It's a challenge. Everything is a competition. A conversation is a competition. Everything is a competition. Yes, okay.
Are we talking about Amy? What's going on here?
Are we talking about me? So yeah, I love that you're thinking about it. So I want you guys to think about people in your life that probably match this description. What do they say? How do they act? What have they done, said, or shown up in a certain way that makes you think that about them, right? And then moving forward, now you'll be able to more easily identify these people when you meet with them. So let's talk about their basic needs. They want choices, they want control, and they want to be competitive. Their greatest fear is being taken advantage of. That's very
everybody.
Yes, but it is on a level, everybody's fear, but this is their number one fear. And that's why they act the way that they do. They act to avoid being taken advantage of. So they make their own decisions. They want to be in control. They want to own it. Common phrase, just get it done. Just get it done.
Who does that sound like?
When I was interviewing Melinda as my assistant, I asked her, what do you think makes a great team member or employee? And she said, you just get it, you just figure it the F out. That's what she said. You just figure it the F out. And I was like, you're hired. Because she talked to me in my language. She talked to me that's exactly what I wanted to hear. I don't want to have to give you a bunch of detail. I don't want to have to give you a bunch of instruction. I need to be able to tell you something, and I need you to take it and run with it and bring me the results. I don't care if the results are not great. I just want you to own it. Any results are better than no results and nothing done to me. So when they talk about results, they don't even necessarily mean great results. You don't necessarily have to bring amazing results. They care about the results, but sometimes they just want a result of something. So let's talk about the positives, and then let's talk about the opportunities. That's what we call challenges in our lives, as opportunities to make things better, right? We're no longer talking in weaknesses. I love it. Okay, so the positives. These people are courageous. They're very quick to respond. They're goal-oriented. They're results-driven. They're deliberate. They have a ton of self-confidence. They're direct, self-reliant, straightforward, and very competitive. These are our CEOs, and we're going to get into that a little bit later. These are the CEOs. These are the entrepreneurs. These are the people that go out and start the businesses and take the risk because they're risk positive. They love risk. They love competition. They love trying new things. Opportunities for them to grow. They're reckless. They can be rude. Impatient. Pushy, dictatorial, conceited, offensive, arrogant, abrasive, and can be ruthless. Now, a lot of these opportunities get weeded out on you while you're coming up as a person in the business, but you will see, obviously, 10% of the CEOs in the world or 10% of the population is a D, and most of them make up the CEOs. And we can see just in pretty much everything we watch when it comes to government officials, CEOs of businesses, we see these opportunities stand out quite a bit, don't we? Yeah, you can shake your head. Yeah, we see it a lot, right? And so D's get a bad rap. But again, they're the people that take a lot of the risk and innovation, and they bring a lot of opportunity for everybody else in the spectrum. Okay, so how do you talk to a D when you want to do business with them? You can't see it, it's in red. But you got to be quick to get to the point. Most of my listing appointments with high D personalities, I sent them the information ahead of time, and we have a 5-minute conversation about what we're going to do. They're the fastest appointments I ever have, especially if I've sent them the information ahead of time. So if you have an appointment with a buyer who is a high D personality, it would really benefit you if you sent them the questions you need answered, as well as an MLS trends report and a copy of the purchase offer agreement, to them in an email ahead of time and let them review it on the time. If they review it, you'll be making decisions together like this. You'll walk, if you do a really great buyer needs analysis with them and you actually get them to answer your questions, you'll be able to go in and out of properties very quickly. You'll probably get into contract the first weekend you're out with them. Very quick to make a decision. Very decisive. Be specific. They do not like small talk. They do not like roundabout talk, and they don't like hemming and hawing. You need to understand, you need to know what you're talking about with them, and you need to do it in simple terms. You can talk your way out of a sale with a deed very quickly just by talking too much or by not getting to the point. Talking slow, if you talk like this to a deed, they will hang up on you. My financial advisor talks like this, and it kills me. Every time we have a phone conversation, I want to cry.
How often have you hung up on him?
Huh?
How often have you hung up on him?
I did not hang up on him. He was a cold call, and when he called me, he actually did get straight to the point. His 30-second elevator pitch was perfect, and I was driving, and I was like, actually, I need this. You got to set up a time for me. Send me an email. And I don't stay on the phone very long. I said, actually, you're lucky you got me at this time. I need a financial advisor. I will set up an appointment with you. And I suffer through his conversation style because he is the opposite of me, and that's who I want helping me with my money. Because if a D was helping me with my money, they would not explain anything to me. They would tell me, do this, this, and this, and they would not want to go any further with me. And I would prefer to have he's so great. I would prefer to have him because he's more of an SC type. And so he will explain everything to me in great detail. And he advises me of the problems and the information that I wouldn't know to ask because I'm a D. I'm like, okay, cool, just get it done. Right? So it's really important to surround yourself, not with everybody that's just like you, especially when you're building any type of team for yourself. Get people that are the opposite of you. So the last one is they want to win. They want to win. Every time, everything, they want to beat you. Even when you're talking to them, they want to win. They want to win against their mom, their dad, their brother. They just want to win. And you have to show them how they're going to win. In fact, use the word win with them a lot. This is how we win. This is how you win. I'm going to give you an example. And it's a real life example, and you can talk to him about it if you want to. But Rich actually had a buyer that he was helping buy homes. And it was the jujitsu guy who works down the way, right? And he runs Ralph Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. So he's a fighter, right? He fights for a living. He competes. He's competitive. Immediately, Heidi. He's a business owner. He's a fighter. He's competitive. Heidi. Immediately, that's what I knew. So the buying process ensues. He's having to put in offers that are $50,000 above asking price, removing contingencies. And the conversation is going like, this is what you have to do in order to get your offer accepted. This seller has all the leverage. The seller has all the cookies. The seller has everything. The seller is winning. That's what he was hearing. I have to lose in order for the seller to win. So we were talking about it, and I said, you should probably say to him, the seller is not your competition. Do you know what your competition is? All those other buyers, right? So how are we going to win? All those other buyers are your competition. How do we knock them out of the park and we win this house? No, just the words. You don't have to tell, you will tell them how to win, but I'm just saying, just using that alone, this is how we're going to win. This is how we're going to beat them. If you pitted the seller against him as competition, he will never get into a property. But if you reframe it to where he's now competing, who he's really competing with, he gets what he wants, right? Which is getting a house, but he gets it in his terms. He gets it as a winner, right? And it worked. Because immediately after we had that conversation with him, he started going out and writing $50,000 above asking price, removing contingencies, no problem. Whatever it took. Within a week, they were in contract on a property. So it's important to understand how they want to be talked to, because they are the ones that are making these decisions, right? And you can't tell somebody what to do. In fact, a D, if you tell them what they have to do, they won't do it. They'll do the opposite of it, because how do they make decisions? My way, right? Is everybody kind of getting it for D? Okay. Any questions about a D before we move on? You feel like you're a D? Okay. All right, let's move forward. Let's talk about I personality type. We love our I's. They're 25 to 30% of the population. Their likes is to be liked. They love expressing their ideas. They love being part of a group. They love social activities. They love recognition. Their dislikes, being ignored, being isolated, being ridiculed, repetitive tasks, schedules. I added that in there because it's true. Detail work, long-term projects. Can't get them to sit still. These are the type of people that need to be out. They need to be going and doing things. They're excellent buyer's agents because they just want to go into property and talk to people and do open houses and have a lot of fun. And I just want to have all the friends in the world. They have large friend groups. Unfortunately, a lot of people think these people are shallow, but that's not the case at all. They're actually very people-oriented. Remember on the circle, they were people-oriented. So they're outgoing and they're people-oriented people. How do they take on tasks? How do they get things done? The fun way. Everything is fun. That's how they thrive in fun environments. In fact, if the conversation gets too heavy with an I, they will either check out or change the subject. Their goal setting is very short term. I like to think of them as butterflies. They land for a minute and then they flutter off and do something else. Their basic need is recognition and approval. They need the approval. And not in I don't believe it's in a shallow way. I believe that they want to feel like they belong and that they're on the right path. So they look for others and their friends. They care a lot about what other people think about them. They care a lot about their relationships with people in a great, meaningful way. They don't want to step on anybody's toes, and they want to make sure that they're going on the right path where everyone wins. Their greatest fear is rejection. And their common phrase is, here's an idea. The positives is that they're very optimistic, very persuasive, they're excited, they're communicative, spontaneous, outgoing, talkative, involved, imaginative, warm, and friendly. They're the social butterflies of the group. They're the ones that put together a party and invite everyone over, right? For like a Sunday dinner and stuff like that. Look, I'm a D. I'm like, I don't know why you would do that, but I'm like, a party? Oh, that I'm throwing? Oh, okay. Somebody else is gonna have to put that together for me. There are opportunities for them to grow, or things that they need to pay attention to, is that they can be unrealistic. They're so optimistic that they don't look for the pitfalls. They can be manipulative. Everybody's manipulative, by the way. Everybody. You can say you're not, but you are. Because when you want something, you're going to do what you need to do to get it done. That's how most people are, and it's not a bad thing. Unfortunately, for our I people, they're very good at influencing others, so it can be seen as manipulative, right? Especially if someone gets talked into doing something they don't want to do. They're emotional, gossipy, impulsive, unfocused, excitable, directionless, daydreaming, and purposeless. Oof. That's rough for my eyes. That probably broke their heart hearing all that right now. All the eyes are sitting around like, why would you say that about me? How could you even put that on the slide? Haven't I been your friend the whole time? That's an I. Okay, so when you talk to them, this is gonna be fun. We're gonna have a lot of fun. I never thought about talking about that when I was in real estate, but now I'm like, yeah, this is gonna be a lot of fun. So funny.
You're being very manipulative.
Yes, I am, because I'm changing the way I talk, right? They want you to be upbeat. They want you to be positive. They do not like negativity. They do not like it. And they want enthusiasm as well. So how do we talk to I's? Well, I'll tell you in coaching, I's are always excited whenever they talk to one person who probably mentioned one time that they might think about buying. Gets really excited for my new agent. They get so excited. And when I say, okay, great, did you pre-qualify them? This is my client. Pre-qualify them? Well, then I might get to a no. I's don't want to hear no. So how do I's show up as clients, right? Your clients, they're going to want to talk a lot about what they want. They're going to want to dream about their dream house with you. They're going to talk a lot about their personal life during the consultation. In fact, when you talk with an I, if you don't ask about their personal life, sometimes they can get offended. They're very people oriented. They care about you. They care about themselves, even, right? So they really want to talk about themselves a lot. So I've had a listing appointment with an I, and she just didn't stop talking. And I kept trying to talk to her about the task at hand. I kept trying to talk to her about this, and I kept trying to move it back. And eventually I just stopped, and I was like, tell me more. And we never talked about the data. We never really talked about selling her home. She told me all about how she bought the home, all the way from the time that she bought it. So all her kids living there, she went through the entire history of the home, and I sat there and listened with a smile. I was probably there for an entire hour. We're dying a slow death, basically. And, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I just had that experience on Saturday. We sat there from 1:20 to 3:30 with majority of that her talking about herself. Like,
She's a high I. Yep, she's a high I. And then what was the result of you listening to her calmly and patiently and being that long?
she's gonna let us listen.
Absolutely. Right? Now, if he would have interrupted her and said, I really love this story, but I gotta get to this information, how do you think she would feel about that?
I keep pushing.
Number one greatest fear. Rejection. Did he just reject her story and her talking and her history? That's what it feels like to them when you tell them, I can't listen to that right now. We got to go to the task at hand. So it's almost better just to let them talk. Let them talk and build a personal relationship with them. When I know it's a high I, when I show property, I say things like, what are you guys doing for fun this weekend? What are you guys getting into after the showing? I don't even talk about the house. I'm not concerned about the house. Don't tell me if they want to buy the house. I ask them how they feel. Emotional people. Ask them how they feel. How do you feel about this house? How does this house make you feel? Right? When you're sitting in a buyer consultation, I have a 4-page buyer needs analysis with all the questions. Ask them all of them. They'll answer all of them with a paragraph each. And they will love you after. They will love you after because you took a genuine interest in all the little details of their home buying position. Okay, any questions about an I? My eyes, how do you think I did? You think I hit it? The eyes are like, I don't know if I want to be an I.
I felt very manipulated.
I love it. Okay, let's get on to my S people. Okay, the S people are 30 to 35% of the population. They like teamwork. They like harmony, predictability. They like the status quo. They do not want change. Change is very tough. They want cooperation. They dislike insensitivity, misunderstandings. They don't want misunderstandings. They don't like being yelled at. They don't like surprises, and they really don't like being pushed. So just right there, I can see how me as a D would show up really bad to an S type, right? If I get a client that's an S type and I show up as my natural inclination, I am insensitive because I'm results driven. I'm not worried about the way that you feel. I'm worried about the end result. Like, let's do this. Misunderstandings, I'm not even, I'm gonna say what I have to say, and if you understand me, you understand me. If it came off differently, you got it in some other way, that's bad for an S. Bad for an S. Being yelled at, really bad. Ds have a very loud speaking voice that is very direct, boisterous. Sometimes people are like, why are you yelling? And I'm like, I'm just talking, right? So for an S type, if I get on the phone, hey, how you doing? How's an S gonna feel about that volume, right? They're not going to they're not gonna be listening anymore. They're gonna be like, oh, wow. Yes. So I don't know if you guys have heard about this, but a really great, oh, I lost the camera. I don't know if you guys have heard about mirror and matching. Anybody heard about that in sales techniques? Okay, mirror and matching is so important because of this. Because I'm always enthusiastic to get on the phone. Hi, how you doing? You know, I'm excited, but as soon as I hear their voice come on and I hear a soft, kind, low voice, my voice drops immediately to match exactly how they're talking. Cadence, timing, all of it. Because I do not want to come off as my Heidi personality to their soft, sweet selves. Because I'll push them away. They won't think that I understand them. They won't think that I can serve them the way they need to be served. Okay, so their task method, they want to do it the easy way, which is good. Their goal setting is evenly paced. So D's will say, oh, who sold the most homes here? Okay, I'm going to do twice that. And an S will say, we'll be very thoughtful about their goal. They'll pace themselves. They'll say, I want to sell this many homes. I'm going to break this up over a long period of time and hit each goal simultaneously, right? One right after the other. They need appreciation and they need security. They need to know that they are safe and that they are supported and taken care of. Their greatest fear is change. And a common phrase that you'll hear is whatever you think is best. I actually had a client who is a pure S. She's the sweetest person in the whole world. I love her to death. And while we were listing her home, she said, we already had multiple offers. They'd already removed inspection contingency. She thought they were paying too much for her home, one. And she said, I'll get everything repaired for them. Just give me the inspections. So she is so supportive and so caring and so sweet that she would lay down, give money back, and do repairs just because, even though she didn't have to. As a high D, I was like, what are you doing? You're eating into your nut. What are you doing? And I had to let her do that. So we reached a compromise and I let her know, hey, financially, we need to put a cap on this. I know that you care about people, but we got to cap this for your sake, because she would run herself into the ground to help people. That's how much she cared. That's the sweetest thing ever. And I love her for that. So we capped it off and she did some repairs for them and she felt really good about it. If I had gone my D way, which is to tell her, no, we're not doing that, we're netting you the most amount of money, would she feel great about me in the long run? I would have gotten what most people would think would be a great result, but would she believe in that result? How would she feel? So I protected her, but I let her have her way. I let her be her sweet self and do what she needed to do. Positives, they're relaxed. They're so reliable, very cooperative, very stable. They're good listeners. They're single-minded, so they're very focused. They know how to focus. They're steadfast, soft-hearted, systematic, and amiable. Easy to get along with. Opportunities for them to grow and some things for them to look into if you are an S, as well as when you're working with them. No initiative. They don't go out and get it done themselves. Dependent. ooh, this is kind of rough, a sucker. Meaning that they can be manipulated easily. Because they are so caring and so giving and so wanting to give themselves, they're indecisive. They're uncommunicative, meaning that they will not share with you their feelings. They won't share with you the problems that they have. They have to learn to feel comfortable enough with you and have enough safe space with you so that they do feel like they can bring up the issues. At any point in time, you make them feel that they cannot bring up their issues with you, they will not, ever. And you will never know what's until they just walk away. They ghost you. They ghost you because they can't bring themselves to talk about it. They just won't even answer. They can be inflexible. So if there is some fear of outcomes, they can be very inflexible. They're resistant to change. They are slow moving. They can be resentful if they're not able to share their inner problems. So if they have a problem with you and then they don't feel safe enough to share that with you because of the environment that's been created around them, they can become resentful. And opportunities is, again, the gullible.
But would you call that uncommunicative or would you call that non-confrontational?
It's a little, oh, this is definitely non-confrontational,
Because you
people.
can communicate and the person just won't receive what you're trying to say, you know?
Right. Yes. With a D, if a person's not receiving what I'm saying, I'm gonna say it again until they do get it. I might even punch it into a, right? And I will continue to explain to you over and over again until they feel heard. And S will just not. If you don't get it the first time, it could be they just won't press it.
When you deal with a lot of different personalities, how do you deal with it?
I mold, I move around, I change.
Okay.
I have learned that my personality is not conducive. I'm 10% of the population. I have to. The 90% of the rest of the population is unlike me. So I have to be softer. I have to be kinder. I have to be more caring. I have to get outside of myself. That's one thing that the disc has taught me is to get outside of myself. I'm sure church helped when I was little. Like I could
I
imagine.
like you, Amy.
Imagine myself like without any of that. Oh my Lord Almighty. Okay, so talk to them this way. You're going to talk to them kindly, patiently, predictable. They really want you to understand. So be understanding. So things that I say to people on a regular basis, because I know that 30 to 35% have this in their personality somehow. So I say things like, I understand. I hear you. Whenever they say anything, I hear you. I understand. I don't have to tell them they're right. I just have to tell them I understand and I hear what they're saying. They want to be heard. They want to be understood, right? That's their biggest fear. Okay. So I hear you. We're going to do this together. I have your back. We're going to do this together. Asking them if they have any questions. Asking them if they have any questions. That's very important. It gives them permission to speak up. I ask how you feel about this, kind of to everybody. That's been my new thing. Like, how do you feel about this consultation that we just had? And it allows me to get some feedback from them. But for my S's, it really gives them permission to say something. An S in an appointment, you have to break for S's and give them permission to speak in between your presentation. An S will sit through your presentation, even though they know they're not going to hire you, and they know that they're like, I do not like this person. I'm not going to hire them, but they will never be rude enough to interrupt you and tell you. So you have to give them space in between to give them time to speak, right? Because they're easily steamrolled. Easily steamrolled. That's it. S's are going to take their time. They're going to look at a lot of homes. They're not going to be super quick to write offers if they don't trust you yet. You really have to get on the trust level with them. They have to feel like you have their back and that you two are working as a team to get to the goal. They really like the 4-page needs analysis. That's really important because you get to the bottom of who they are and what they want. Again, and it gives them permission to express themselves because you're asking them a lot of questions and they will answer your questions.
Would you send an S the needs analysis ahead of time?
Yes, I believe that all people love to have information ahead of time. So for my buyers, they receive a trends report, as well as, I don't always send the needs analysis. They receive the trends report and they receive a copy of the, a sample option or a sample version of the offer. My listings receive a CMA, a trends report, and a copy of the listing agreement ahead of, or a sample of the listing agreement ahead of time for their own. When you do that, it gives them opportunity to read this information, but even if they don't, they feel that you are transparent. The trends report is fantastic because it will give them an update on the market so that they won't be coming at you saying, can we get a house on this? Because it just tells them in graphs and all kinds of third-party information that they can't. I like to do that. Any other questions? Does anybody feel like they're an S? I know, and Megan, it hurt me so bad to talk about opportunities because I know all the S's are like, oh,
And being a 99 SC, I'm like,
I know, and I'm like, oh, that's so rude to them. I just know I've dealt with them, and I've dealt with S's on a regular basis, and my mom is an S, and so that's why I'm like, oh. When I read the D's, the D bad parts, I'm like, yeah, we're dicks, you know, we're do all these things, and it doesn't bother me, but I can tell that an S or an I, they're really people oriented, right? They really care about what people think about them. So to read off this list of things that aren't so nice crushes the ego a little bit. D's and C's are like, yeah, I like to know that stuff. And yes, it's real. And I'm totally okay with it. They're not worried about what people think because they're the task-oriented people. Does that make sense? Okay. C personality types. 20 to 25% of the population. C types are my favorite because they are the genuine, not a genuine opposite of me, but they're the opposite of me, but on the same side. So I relate to them a lot, but I'm nothing like them and I need them in my life. So likes, C types, they love to be right. They love clear instructions. They love planning. They love to establish procedures. They know what's to be expected, and they like finishing tasks. They love a checklist, and they love checking them off. Dislikes being criticized, mistakes, sudden changes, sloppy work, unpreparedness, and skipping tasks. Remember, these guys were on the bottom of the hemisphere, so they were reserved people, right? So the sudden changes, they're task-oriented, but any sudden changes, they're on the reserve side. Their task method is my way. So remember how the high D was my way? High I and S is going to be on the people-oriented side, so they're more cooperative people. They work with others really well. High D's and high C's adapt to work with other people, but they truly believe that their way is the best way. And they will say it. Their goal setting is they are challenging, they will challenge themselves. Their basic need is details, quality, and value. Their greatest fear is criticism. And common phrase is, I need more information. So I want to stop on this goal setting, basic need, greatest fear, and common phrase. A lot of the C types are, and we'll talk about the jobs that everybody fits into normally. They're going to be your accountants, engineers. They need details. Your CMA, the trends report, the listing agreement ahead of time, that's what this is for. I do it for everybody because I like to cover all my bases, because you'll learn, and you've probably already noticed, we all have a little bit of everything in us, right? Everybody's got a little bit of everything. So I like to provide everything for everyone because we are holistic people. We all naturally fall into one of these categories in a big way. However, I just like to cover all my bases just in case. So when you're sitting down to the listing presentation, the comps that you provided, they probably are going to have their own. They've already looked at Zillow, they've done all the research. They know about the competition on the market. I mean, I've had them say, I've gone out showing property with a C type, and they will constantly ask me, have you been in this home before? And I was like, why would I do that? I'm a ID, and I was like, why would I be in this home? No, you're the only buyer that's asked to see this property. And he couldn't imagine, because he's like, oh, I would go out and see every home on the market. Like 1,300 homes on the market, bro. Like, I ain't got time for that. I'm results oriented. You want to see a house? I'll show you that house, right? I had to change that. That's the one guy that made me change and made me start looking at properties on my own time, just in case. And that was good. So I started like previewing $1 million homes, because that's what it was. He was a $1 million buyer, and I lost that buyer because I was a high D. I was a young agent, and I was a high D personality, and I couldn't get on the same page with him. He was very intelligent, very high net worth. And I was like, results, results, results. Why do you care about that stuff? And he was like, because I'm a C type, and that's what's important to me. So this really, losing deals like that is what helped me knock some sense in and said, you can't show up like this all the time. You have to give people what they want, not what you think they want. Okay, so positives, they're orderly, logical, they're intense people. They're curious, teachable, cautious, correct. They're questioning. They have a lot of questions. They will poke holes in an I's sunshine cloud so quick. C's and I's have a hard time. They actually need each other. C's need an I to bring them out of their shell and make them have fun and think about people and things like that. And I's need C's because they poke holes in their crazy ideas and say, yeah, that's a good idea, but how are you going to execute? How are you actually going to make this happen? So I am looking for an assistant eventually. You know, Melinda's going to grow and become a beautiful I real estate agent because she's a high I, right? So that's where she belongs. And the next time I hire somebody for any position, they will be the exact opposite. They will be a CS, and they will handle all the things that I have such a hard time handling. And I will be able to hand them something and say, here, go do this. And they'll be calculated enough to get it done in a way that I would never be able to produce. That's something that I've learned about hiring. So opportunities for C's to grow or things that they need to pay attention to is they can be compulsive. So analysis paralysis can take over for them because they're analyzing everything way too much, overthinking it. They're critical. They can be seen on the skeptical or negative side, but they're really just thinking about all the outcomes. They're unsociable. So they're wallflowers, they'll stick to the wall. They're task-oriented people, right? And they're reserved. So they're task-oriented and reserved. They ain't trying to talk to nobody. They handled all of the lighting for the party though. They made sure the DJ booth was all set up, all that technical stuff out without a hitch. They'll also hide behind all that technical stuff and just wait there for the party to be done. They're nosy. Oh, so they're nosy because they want to know all the details. They're easily offended. Easily offended because they think they're the smartest one in the room, which is totally okay because they probably are, to be honest. They are fearful. That's why they poke holes in things, because they have a fear of it not going right and there being criticism. They're worrisome and they're prickly. Prickly just means that they're a little like, ooh, not the nicest. A little testing, a little testing. All right, so we want to talk to them. We want to be accommodating, accurate. You need to be accurate. Accountable and analytical. The way that I get around not being accurate is by giving them ranges. So a range still feels accurate to them because it's a set of numbers and it's not like, oh, in the 600s. Okay, I think your house, off the top of my head, I'm probably looking at a number around 650, 700. You can do things like that with them and they won't feel like you're not giving them information. They love numbers. The more reports and third-party information and studies you can throw at them, the better. Statistics. They love statistics. Anything like that. Who here thinks they're a C?
I'm offended by this whole conversation.
That makes sense. Our dear boy Carnegie is a total C type.
I was telling the.
Yeah. Total C type. He has an entire closet full of games. And the last time we did a disc class, it was being taught by a guy named Joey Di Benedetto. And he asked Carnegie about his game collection and said, how do you have it ordered? Is it in alphabetical order? And he said, no. He goes, oh, okay, how do you have it ordered? He said, in difficulty of play. And we were like, oh my God, what? What kind of scale is that? So he's come up with his own way of doing things. That's how he orders it. And he's determined this level of play. And he's organized them in his way. Love it. I'm like, yes, that's what I need in my life. Because I'm like, I don't know, pick a game. I just rip it out, right? I'm a caveman. That's what that means. Okay, so let's talk about job profiles. I love this so much because the job profiles help me because I ask people, oh, what do you do for a living? That's part of my board script, right? So when I meet a new buyer or I meet a new seller or anybody, I always ask them what they do for a living because it tells me what personality type they probably are. And it gives me some insight. It also tells me a little bit about how much money they might make. I like that part too. Okay, so D's, they're usually CEOs, VPs, they're management, they're in sales. If they're not, they hate their job and they'll talk about it. If they're an admin, they'll be like, my job sucks, I hate my job. But if they're in any one of those, they like it. Lots of entrepreneurs. I's, teachers, sales, still in sales, trainers, office managers. They're people oriented. The S's, teachers, nurses, programmers, technicians. So people oriented, but on the more reserved side, they're not going to be necessarily going out and running sales and getting out excited to get new business because they're not people oriented. Well, they're people oriented, but they're not pushy. They're not influential. C's, accountants, engineers, analysts, nurses, surgical techs, doctors, all of that. If it took you 7 years to get your degree, you're probably a C. Patient. Cares about the details. So how do I use this in my business? How do we use this in our businesses together? So I use this info in my business. When I'm on the phone, the way that I can tell whether a person is a certain kind of personality, remember how I said within a few minutes I can tell what kind of personality they are? On the phone, D's and I's tend to speak loud and fast. Super quick. S and C's tend to speak softer and slower. C is very monotone. S's are very sweet. C's are very monotone. D's are more monotone, loud, aggressive. Like when I get calls from people and they're like, hey, is this Amy? And I'm like, yeah, what's up? That's exactly, you'll hear it. You'll hear it. I don't mean anything by it, that's just how I am. Yeah, what's up? I have to change my voice because I say, yeah, what's up? I've also learned neuro-linguistic programming. And so I've worked really hard to get my downward swing on everything that I say so that it's embedded command and people don't think that I'm asking them a question. So I talk down. That's the
How do you
thing.
do that into text messages or?
You don't.
If people, because I've had people message me, and I'm like, how can I help you today? Oh, nothing. And then my next thought is, well, what do you want? And I don't, like,
What are they texting you in the beginning for you to say,
Or
how can I help you?
it could be like a loan officer or somebody who wants to, partner up or something like that.
Oh, Lord.
And it's like going on, I don't like to read in between the lines,
Mhm.
but I don't like to offend people either. So I just like, how can I help you? And then if they're not getting to the point, then I'll go straight to, what do you want? What was the point of you reaching out? Like, I don't know how to be subtle about it. I
Well-
go from one extreme to the next. I don't know what.
Well, I wouldn't say ever be that way with your clients, but I mean, let's just be real right now. You probably all are getting hit up by lenders left and right,
Yeah.
looking to help, looking to get business from you. That's what they want. They want you to send your buyer leads to them. I do not have time for that. So I I would answer the same way. Yeah, what's up? What do you want? Like, what's up? Did you want to meet? Like, let's get to the, yeah, I mean, that's a very specific situation. So I would say, be nicer to your clients if they reach out to you than that, right? I change the way, I don't always talk like that. When my clients call me, I'm like, hey, how you doing? Right? Usually when my coaching agents call me and I know their number and it's saved in my phone, hi, how are you? I say their name.
So you're not like that with everybody?
No. What do you mean? If a telemarketer calls me and I answer the phone and they start rattling off something, hey, Amy, are you still an agent with Keller Williams? Yeah, what do you want?
Or the lead
No,
generator
thank you,
people.
right.
Any of it. If they're calling me for something like that, my high D personality shows up and I'm like, what do you want? You're calling me for something, get it out. I'm ready to go. When a coaching agent calls me, do I need to have a good relationship with them?
Yeah.
Do I need them to feel comfortable and warm and be able to ask me questions? Yeah. So I'm not gonna call them and be like, what do you want? That's rude. That's definitely gonna be perceived as rude for all the high I's that I deal with and all the S's that I deal with.
That's why you should be nice to everybody.
If my dad calls me, me and my dad talk the exact same. He's where I got it from. What's up? That's how we talk to each other. The other day I was talking to my dad about something because he was helping me and somebody was around me and they were like, I cannot believe you talked to your dad like that. And I was like, why are you talking to me like that? We're just very direct. And we just don't, we're both high D's. We do not care. You can't offend me very easily. So I's and S's, they tend to show more emotion. They'll talk a lot about other people in the situation. See, so D's and C's are task-oriented people. So they talk more about the task at hand. I's and S's are people-oriented. So they talk more about the people involved, right? D's and C's tend to show no emotion. So it's important when you're a D for you to like suss up a little bit of caring every once in a while and show some emotion. If you ever get a D to cry, like it's a big deal.
It's never a bad thing.
It's a big deal. Like that's my I side. That's my I side. And most of the time I suck it up halfway through and I'm like, why are you doing this? Stop being a little, get it together, right? Okay, let's talk about on appointments. So D's, their homes tend to be clean, decorated traditionally. They're neat, clean, and in order. I's homes tend to be very well decorated with trendy style. They're going to have a lot of photos on the wall throughout the house, usually of their friends and their family and everybody they love. Dogs, all of it. Yeah. S's homes tend to be comfortable, traditional. They have lots of family photos. They're people oriented and they're caring people. So they're going to have lots of love. C's homes tend to be very neat, tidy, well organized, and usually devoid of color. If you see any decorations in a C or a D's home that have a lot of color, there's most likely an I or an S that lives with them. And we can send this presentation out for you guys so that you can have.
Please.
Absolutely.
I like my white walls.
Oh, my whole house it will be monochrome. It will be white, everything white, anything stone will be black, and anything wood will be plain wood colored. I'll hang stuff up on the walls because I know it looks better when I do that. But not because I'm like super into it. In fact, have you guys ever seen what's that movie? Oh man, the character is Holly Golightly. My Fair Lady. There's a movie called My Fair Lady, and there's a character in it, and her name's Holly Golightly, and she moves around too much, and she never unpacks boxes, and she never names her cat, and that is my life. I still have boxes that are unpacked in my home. I moved in January 31st. I lived in a house for years. I never put anything on the wall. I have pictures, never put them on the wall. And I lived out of box, like I just have everything in boxes. I never unpack. And both of the cats I've ever had in my entire life have been called Kitty.
I have boxes and unpacked since 1993.
There it is.
That's all.
All right, so how do we ask for the business for each individual personality type? D's will make a very fast decision. D's like to negotiate, and they need to feel like they've won. The best thing for you to do when you go into an appointment with a D is raise your commission up a percent higher than you actually want to achieve. So I like to charge 6% for my listings. So if I went into a listing appointment with a D and I didn't want to have to negotiate very hard, I would raise it up to 7% in the contract. When I show up to the listing and I talk to them, I'm going to let them work me down to 6. If I showed up with 6, where would they go? Or go down to 5, right?
You already got split that.
And then you already got to split that. So with your D's, they want to win. Let them win on your own terms, though, right? I know how to trick people just like me. Eyes can be quick to make decisions if they feel like you care about them and they feel connected to you. They have an overwhelming need to be liked and to be recognized. And so you want to focus on how it will help them. We're going to get you the highest price in this neighborhood. Everybody's going to think that you just made out like crazy. Everybody's going to think. When I talk to high eyes, I tell them lots of people work with me. I help a lot of people buy and sell homes. In fact, that's part of my script. Hi, my name is Amy Tremayne. I'm a local real estate expert, and I help a lot of people buy and sell homes, and I'm wondering how I can help you. That's my cold call script. I don't care if it's an internet lead. I don't care if it's just a seller that I'm calling. No matter who I'm calling, that script covers all personality types. It covers a D because it's short, sweet, and to the point. It covers a C because it tells them that I'm an expert. It covers I because it says I work with a lot of people. I help a lot of people buy and sell homes. And it covers the S because, again, it says I help a lot of people. I help a lot of people buy and sell homes, and I'm wondering how I can help you. S's will need time to make a decision. So you'll need to help them focus on the security and the safety and the family. They want to trust who they're going to be working with. So I have a plan. I have a listing plan. It's the same plan that I've been using for 7 years. We put your home on the market on a Wednesday. We do showings from Wednesday throughout the weekend. Offers are due Monday at 5 p.m. We will review offers Tuesday sometime. And here's the next steps. They want to know that you have a plan for them. C's will need a lot of information to make a decision. You cannot rush them, and they would rather make no decision than a rushed decision. So that's why I get the listing information to them ahead of time. I get them comps ahead of time, a trends report, and the listing agreement or the purchase offer ahead of time. Why? Because I want them to have as much information as possible, and I want them to be able to sleep on it. If I can get them to sleep, to read all of that information and then sleep on it, most of it's going to be most of it's going to be transferred into long-term memory. And the next day when I meet with them, or 2 days later when I meet with them at the listing or what have you, now we're just agreeing on the data, right? Now we're just confirming the data, what we both already know to be true. And they're ready to make a decision because they've had time to digest it, right? That's actually a lot of people. You guys get the information to them ahead of time. You meet with a brand new buyer, they're pre-approved, send them all the information ahead of time. That way they have time to look through it on their own. They'll come to you with questions if they have it, and they'll trust you more because you were upfront and transparent with them. All right, any questions? Oh my gosh, no questions? I feel so thorough. Did you guys have, what are some ahas that you got out of this class? Okay, none, maybe I wasn't
I need
thorough.
more information.
You need more information?
I'm just kidding.
Of course you do. I don't want to.
Let's party. I want to party.
Yeah. Okay, Michael figured out that he wants to party. I think we know what he is.
I think almost every first-time home buyer is a high C.
Okay, so let's talk about adaptive style versus natural style. I want everybody to go out and take the disc, first of all, and then I want you to read your disc, and it's gonna talk to you about adaptive style and natural style. Everybody has a natural style, a natural way of being. You can adapt, and you will adapt given specific criteria. So yes, buying a house is a stressful situation. You're going to move into a more adaptive style, which is going to raise some of your percentages on the scale, right?
Yeah.
You may adapt, and when you get put into a stressful or a work situation, you start becoming very detail oriented. The issue is that you cannot adapt for very long. So you'll only adapt for a short period of time, and then you'll naturally go back into another style. That's the same for work. So you saw all the jobs that we have, and you guys should think about this in your careers, right? If you are an SC and you are in a sales position, you will adapt for a short period of time, but you will naturally regress back to your natural style, right? And then you'll have to reconcile where you go from there. So it's important for you to know these things about yourself. There are ways for you to adapt yourself so that you can be more even in one area than the other. Parm Outwall has studied the disc so much that when she takes it, she's even across the board. And she shows up that way, and that's why she's able to sell 150 homes, and every listing appointment she goes to, she gets it. Because she's adapted herself so much that she's able to show up for everybody in a specific way. Right? So I'm sure her natural inclination was probably more like a DC personality type, just based off of the way that I've interacted with her. But I think that over time she has learned, I need to be more approachable, I need to be more friendly, all those things, just like I have. Just like I've naturally adapted, because I got to survive and I got kids to feed. Right?
Would you say a lot of Ds are narcissists? Like, a lot of narcissists tend to be Ds?
Well, narcissism is a neural divergent like brain thing. They tend to be conceited.
Yeah.
So that's because they think my way is the best way. That's because they're task-oriented people. They think that C's can be that way too.
Yeah.
They do come off as being conceited or thinking that they know what's best. Yeah.
Is there a special class on how to deal with a D's? And that was a joke.
Thank you. Yes, it's called Get Into Main Street Coaching Program, and you will all learn how to deal with a D. Yeah, D's are very decisive. If honestly, like, who else do you know that is a D? Like maybe even within this brokerage. You guys know? Have you met anybody? Dawn is definitely a D. John Bernardo.
I'm a D.
Very high D. Who's a D?
Andrew's a D.
And Andrew's a D. Andrew's definitely a D. So it's not that they're not friendly people. It's not that they can't be nice, and it's not that they don't care. They just tend to lean on the non-emotional side, and they're results oriented, and they're ready for the task at hand. Like I show up differently with different people too. When I'm in a relationship with someone, when I'm dating somebody, I adapt my adaptable or natural style. Sorry, my adaptable style turns into an S, because that was what was modeled for me as a child. My mother is an S. My mother treated my dad as a high D, my mother is an S. I naturally do that. And it's so funny because I took a disc class and I finally like really understood the S personality type, and I was like, that's how I show up at home when I'm in a relationship. Yeah. To my kids, I'm probably a little bit more of a S as well, because I care about those people. Those are my people. Those are my loved ones. And I've been modeled that from my mother. And so that's how I show up. My D still comes out quite a bit. Like when I tell my kids to brush their teeth for the third time.
That makes sense. Like, you're not in conflict. Like, sometimes you could be a D, but like you want your loved ones to win.
Yes.
You want.
Yes, and I have learned through business that now I want everybody to win. And if I win, it doesn't always mean that everybody wins. And it doesn't feel good for me anymore. It used to feel really good. I'm going to be honest. I've always been competitive ever since I was very little. And winning was the best. But when I won and other people didn't win, it didn't feel good because I do have a part of myself that's an IS. And so that's what led me into, now I'm like, okay, yes, I could win. Do I want to be happy? Do I want this other person to still like me? Right? I made a joke the other day because I said that I will negotiate my best friend into the ground and then take her out for beers after. Like, it won't bother me. It won't bother me to win, but I have to change that because in real estate, if it's not a win-win, there's usually no deal that comes out of it. So I had to learn to be a little bit more adaptable when it comes to negotiating in real estate contracts, because I will try to win, but will it blow up the deal just so that I can win? That's not a good thing, right? So I have to put my ego aside and we all have to win. So I think that as you go through life and you start interacting with people, or you have to survive, or you get into a job that makes you adapt a little bit, you're going to naturally do that. You're going to change. But your natural personality type is going to come out eventually. So like if I'm stressed, the D comes out. The D comes out, I don't want to talk about it, I just want to get it done. Things like that, right? You just have to look at that. So I encourage all of you to go out and get the disc. It's $25, $24.95 to get your actual results that tell you your personality, how you fall on the disc. And then it goes into great detail about how you show up in different ways, in different settings. I just think it's really, it's really insightful on yourself as how you show up. And then you can decide where you want to make some alternative changes, or if you even want to change it all. But hopefully this was helpful enough for you to understand how other people show up. Now, when you go out to do open houses, I want you to think about what jobs were associated with which letter, and then how do they talk? And then I want you to start assigning in your head, don't tell them, they're not going to know what happens. If you're a D, you're like, oh, okay. Just assign them the letter, and then try to talk to them in the language that they want to hear and see how much better you connect.
When you see couples come in and one talks over the other more, or one answers the question, would you most likely think they're a D?
No, they could be an I. Yeah, they could definitely be an I, because I's love to talk. I's love to have the center of attention.
They like to love to answer the question.
Yeah, actually, D's won't do a lot of talking. They don't want to be the one that talks. They'll let an I talk.
Like, right off the bat, you kind of think, okay, this person's one in charge, this is top. I guess you can't assume that.
No, you cannot assume that. I always like to ask directly, who's the decision maker here? There's nothing wrong. So that's one thing I will say about being a D. I'm very direct. I have no problem asking questions, and it gets me the answers that I need. Whereas people might think that asking questions is diving too deep or being invasive. I don't care about that. I have a question, how much money do you make? I got no problems asking people that. How much money do you have in the bank? No problems asking people that. Doesn't bother me. If you don't like answering that question, you probably don't have the money, and I don't want to waste my time with you. That's how a D thinks. Like that, right? Where an I personality is like, I'm not gonna ask them how much money they make. What if they get offended? What if they don't like me? That's the distinction. So then you got to find little ins and outs of like, I'm an I care about what people think. So when I ask people, if I want to know how much money people make, I ask them, oh, what do you do for a living? You know, things like that. What do you do for a living? What do you guys do for fun? Man, fun activities, you can tell if somebody makes a lot of money based off their activity. Tell me you go skiing, you make money. You make money. If you do just activities, oh, we usually just hang out on the weekends. Okay. Tells me a little bit, right? Tells me that you're not going out and blowing a bunch of money. Maybe you have a good savings. Maybe you're more of a C type. But if you're like wild and you're like, oh, I go snowboarding, I go snorkeling, I go out every weekend. Okay, maybe you're a D because you like competition, you like wild, you like risk. I like to go out and hang out with my friends all the time. High I, right? S type, I like to stay at home, hang out with my family. C types, oh, I tinker in the garage. I like to work on my cars. I have hobbies like that. Does that make sense?
This is so, like, putting this toward a client is so insightful to how they would react
Yeah.
to this. We had a client who was total D type. I went with Rich. He totally adapted. I did not, because I didn't know. And I went out the next time by myself and they had already adapted to me.
The D had already adapted to you?
Yes, like they were enthusiastic, very happy, asking me my plans, like,
That's awesome.
and I was like, okay, hold on a second. I had just tried, he was like, you need to research the D type
Yeah.
to get on their level. So I did, and I showed up and they adapted to me instead. And I was like, okay, let me.
You're like, that's weird.
Yeah, so
Yeah, that's awesome.
it's cool though, because you could have, like, I could have adapted that first. You know, like their personality first.
D's and I's are naturally adaptive people because they are just able to bend on the spectrum. Change doesn't bother them. So they're change is okay with them, easily adaptable. Probably in sales. That guy's probably in sales of some sort and he knows how to mirror and match.
Yeah.
And so Rich was the dominant personality when you guys went out together.
Yeah.
And that's why. And then when you were there alone, there was no dominant personality, and then you guys were able to connect.
Right.
Yeah. But I's and D's are adaptable, so they will adapt to you. Doesn't mean that they'll connect as well. D's and D's don't always connect. Does that make sense? D's and D, I'm 10%. You're a D, I'm a D. I'm the D here, right? But a D and an I, whoo, good times. They can connect really well. D's and C's connect really well because they're both task oriented. D's and S's, big divide. So if you think about the quadrant, look at the opposites. I's and C's don't connect very well because C's will poke holes in I's and C's will ask questions and I's are like, I don't know the answer to that. I'm just trying to have fun right now. I thought showing houses was part of this job. I didn't know that I had to know the numbers, right?
I think I tried to date a couple of those girls. Jeez.
and then D's and S's are gonna have a hard time because S's need a lot of support and D's are like, I ain't got no time for that. So D's and I's will get along really well. They usually partner up. They're usually couples.
And,
So
and
how
if
would
you're,
that work if you're across?
If I'm a D and I'm working with an S,
Like if that's your sub, because like I'm an S and a D.
you're an S and a D. Your personality is?
Yes.
Oh, that's awesome. What's your adaptable style versus natural style?
S, I think.
Okay, so you're more of an S than a
Yeah.
D? Okay. So you're more of an S than a D. Where does your D, how much of a D?
I didn't even look. I tried to rush it.
Oh, okay. If you are the opposite, that's just your personality. So you're very direct, you're task oriented, and then in some situations, you're going to need a lot of support. So you probably feel like you could really be direct and you can get stuff done and you can be task oriented when you have the support. And we just sat through a goal setting session and that's exactly what I'm gathering now. Because you're like, no, if you tell me what to do, I'm gonna do it and I'm gonna do it well. And I'm gonna do it. That's how you were. You're like, if you just tell me what to do, I'm gonna do it and I'll do it well. She's like, just tell me what to do. Very deep, very deep. But also she's like, but I don't know how to do. I need you to tell me. I need a plan. So that's where your S comes in, right? So you'll do it, but you need somebody to support, to tell you what to do. And then you'll get it done. And you'll get it done at a high level. Okay, I've gone way over, but I hope this is valuable for you guys. Any other insights or questions or things you want to share? Okay, good. Well, thank you guys so much for showing up. I hope this is valuable. I'll probably send out the recording with the, we'll send out the recording with the presentation and stuff so you guys can review it later.
That'd be great. Thanks, Amy.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thanks, Amy.
Oh, absolutely.
Thanks, Amy.
Bye. Thank you.
Go on and give it.